Heather McDonald has got the juiciest scoop. When you're on the road, when you're on the go, Juicy Scoop is the show to know. She talks Hollywood tales, her real life mister, segment serial data, and serial sister. You'll be addicted and addicted fast to the #1 tabloid real life podcast. Listen in, listen up. Whoop, whoop. Heather McDonald, Juicy Scoop.
Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. I have been studying for 24 hours. I have so much to go over, so much to recap on. There's a lot of scoop and I'm doing it all for you. So just sit back, get ready. Let's go for it. I did not realize when I talked on Tuesday about this Selena Gomez, Hailey Bieber story. I was like, what's up with these girls? Then I just kept seeing more and more about it. And so many people have done research. I've done research. I've gathered it all for you. And it's pretty juicy. And I have some of my own theories. So first of all, it starts out as you guys may or may not know. Selena Gomez, star of Waverly Place, obviously a big star. She also has her own makeup line called Rare Beauty. Everyone loves her. I got in trouble once for talking about how she got a kidney from a best friend, and I didn't think she was treating that girl like her best friend anymore. And the bots came after me, or not. Maybe they weren't bots. She has really hardcore fans. She currently has more. She is the most followed woman on Instagram with 3 million more followers than Kylie Jenner. Kylie Jenner and Kendall Jenner seem to be friendly with Hailey Bieber, but they're also very friendly with. They're friendly with. Appear to be friendly with Selena, but they're also really friendly with Hailey Bieber, like hang out, do TikToks together, all of that. Hailey Bieber is the daughter of Stephen Baldwin, who is one of the three. There's 4 Baldwin brothers: Alec, Stephen, Billy, and I think Danny. So Stephen is very hardcore religious Christian. And they raised Hailey to be that as well. And so, interestingly enough, Hailey is the niece of Alec Baldwin and Hilaria Baldwin. A lot of the theories are that Hailey was super obsessed with Selena as a fan and as someone that was obsessed with her as a teenager, and equally obsessed with Justin, and kind of stalked him and put herself in a position to eventually win his heart. So the evidence that pertains to this is a lot. And it includes Hailey being obsessed with Selena and copying a lot of what she does as far as tattoos, jewelries, and business ideas, and even things that she says in interviews, which I'll get into, to, her relationship with Justin. I mean, there's just so much. And then the Taylor Swift element, where Taylor, as you know, is a prolific writer and songwriter, and a lot of her Swiftie fans like to try to analyze her music. And yesterday, it came to me that I believe that Taylor Swift, who considers Selena Gomez one of her best friends and is a big defender of Selena Gomez, one of her songs, Mastermind, seems to be possibly talking about Hailey Baldwin. And there's other things where at one time, now this is a rumor that someone told me, so this I don't have the fact that Selena was with Justin, but then Selena went to Paris with some of these girls, Kendall Jenner and whatnot. And then while she was gone is when Hailey Bieber found herself in the same room with Justin Bieber, and then they started dating. The song, which is called Mastermind from Taylor Swift, some of the lines are, "What if I told you none of this was accidental? And the first night that you saw me, nothing was going to stop me. I laid the groundwork, and then just like that clockwork, the dominoes cascaded in a line. What if I told you I'm the mastermind? You see, all the wisest women have done it this way because we were born to be a pawn in a lover's game. If you fail to play, you play to fail." So strategy and all this. Now, Hilaria Baldwin met Alec Baldwin at this vegan restaurant, which my sources tell me that she, and everything that I read, she knew that he liked that place. She also knew that he was obsessed with Selma Hayek, who was his co-star at the time on 30 Rock, who of course is Spanish and has a Spanish accent. And she presented herself and she started speaking in Spanish. And he's like, I just need to meet who is this woman? And the rest is history. And many years later, he found out she was not from Spain at all, but from Boston. And her name is Hillary, not Hilaria. Okay. So along with some of the things, the first one is that Selena has this tattoo that's on the back of her, like on the side of her neck, that it looks to be a J for Justin. Other people say it's a small G for her little sister. But Hailey Baldwin got the same tattoo. Very weird. Other things are that Selena Gomez had a cooking show and she would say, this is my actual kitchen. This is where I live. And then Hailey Baldwin started a cooking show. Now, a lot of people do that, but she also said, this is my actual kitchen. This is where I live. Selena would say, I'm going to be cooking with my papa. Here he is. And then Hailey would say, today I'm going to be cooking with my Nana. And this is what we're going to do. There are so many things in the exact same words that Selena has said in interviews she had said. One of the questions being like, they asked Selena, what is something that you want people to know about you that they don't know? And she's like, I just want people to know my heart. And then you would see Hailey Baldwin in an interview kind of volunteer that question, even though it wasn't asked. Like, I wish people that really don't know me would just know the most important thing about me, my heart. Like, it's crazy. It's like so many things like that. And another thing is, they said, I was able to tell my story from my mouth. I want to tell my own story from, so many things have been said about me. Selena would say, all of these things, though, Selena always said first and did these things first. Okay, so then there's this piece of jewelry. So there was a tattoo that Hailey had that was the J, and it was this font meaning for Justin. But Justin also gave a jewelry of a J and gave it to a ring, but it was a piece of jewelry, but it was that same font to Selena. So there's just like a lot. I don't want to bore you guys, but also as far as the Selena Gomez thing, one time Hailey Bieber was presenting and she at an award show, and her co-presenter said, and now for Taylor Swift, and Hailey Bieber like stuck her finger down her throat. Also, she had some really awful tweets that have come out from 10 years ago. Now, granted, she was a teenager then, but they are racist tweets that this person, Sloan, had put together. It's a big YouTube show, so I'm sharing his stuff here. But, she's with Cody Simpson. When you're at that awkward moment, when you're at a Chinese restaurant and your waiter isn't Chinese, there is one with the N-word in it. Very shocking. Going to Florida, white, but coming back to New York as a different race. At first, I thought it was tan, but then she has an emoji of someone of a different ethnicity in there. I mean, they're very disturbing. But again, she was a teenager. So then I found this other thing that Justin Bieber is on Ellen, and she's always asking about his relationship with Hailey Bieber. And Justin said, how did you meet? He goes, well, her dad knew my pastor, and he's like, both these kids are into, are Christians. They should meet. And he goes, and then actually, it was an arranged marriage. Yeah, I think it was an arranged marriage. I can't really explain it, but it was an arranged marriage. So her dad, Stephen Baldwin, was like, hey, I think, goes to the pastor, in which Justin Bieber gave a lot of money to, and was like, I think that, my daughter and he should meet. We also see that she was just a huge fan. There's Page 6 just posted this. She's very young in this photo, a teenager. And she wrote, seriously, though, she is beyond flawless, talking about Selena. And he's Bieber. They are the perfect relationship, forever alone. About herself is a tweet that Hailey did. And there's a photo of her on a red carpet holding a Teen Beat magazine with Selena and Justin. And, I believe she's more obsessed with Selena, because even after she's married to Justin, Selena goes out on a date or is seen with The Weeknd. And prior to that, The Weeknd was dating Bella Hadid. And then right after this came out in the news, she writes, "Isn't Bella Hadid the cutest thing ever? Is there anyone better than Bella Hadid?" Just weird stuff like that. Or Selena would have the number one song and Cardi B would be number two. And then she'd be like, that Cardi B song is absolutely the best. That should be number one. Just constant. But then she would go on other interviews and be like, no, Selena and I are good. There's no bad beef. We talk, or they see each other on a red carpet and they might hug. But now people are really diving in deep of all the weird stuff about it. So, our girl Meredith Lynch, who really loves looking up people's trademarks, which I love because she's a genius. She found that she has trademarked Hailey Bieber, along with all her makeup and Rhodes makeup and everything, this thing called mood board. And now all these articles about Hailey's stylings and her outfits and her nails are like, the writer will write, add this to your mood board, do this to your mood board. And so it's like, it really just, what Meredith does is really expose this machine that, like, I haven't put out my clothing line called Mood Board yet, but I'm going to have my PR person feed these articles to their contact at Page Six or whatever. And in describing my outfit, hey, can you make sure you use the word mood board? So then when my clothing line comes out and be like, you know how I'm obsessed with all my stuff, now you can get, so that's pretty juicy. And listen, she has a right to pursue beauty and fashion and everything because she's not a singer, but definitely just how strategic she really is in her business. Was she that strategic in finding love? Meanwhile, when all this is going down, Justin has, in fact, canceled the rest of his tour. As you know, he had Ramsay Hunt syndrome, which was kind of gave like a partial paralysis to his eye and face. So it was canceled for that, but then he was going to finish up the tour, and that now he announced yesterday that's canceled as well. In all of this going on, which is this is a PR nightmare for Hailey Bieber. Nobody seems to be defending Hailey Bieber in this. Everything I see is pro Selena Gomez and everybody being like, told you so. I mean, there are thousands of TikToks and Instagram reels of people putting together their facts, and like other people that have done TikToks of like, worst celebrity I met, and how many have really negative stories about Hailey Bieber. One girl I just watched said, I was so excited. I saw Hailey Bieber at some concert and I said, I'm such a fan. Do you think I could get a photo? And she's like, okay. And takes the photo. She goes, is there anything else you want from me? And she goes, no, thanks. Hope you have fun. I just want to get my photo. Thanks. And then she said, and then she walked off with her friend and was like, oh, Hailey, I'm such a big fan. And she saw her like mock her. So, I mean, I definitely think there's a mean girl element with all of these girls, and it's evident of it. And then, and even the older Kardashian girls, I know it seems crazy because they're like, they're so graceful and so well spoken in their interviews and stuff. But there's evidence of emails and texts between Kim Kardashian and Hailey Duff and stuff where she said mean things about Paris. No, Hillary and Hailey. There was a story with them that I came across because I was like on this stuff where Kim was like 27 and writing like really snarky, mean stuff back and forth about other celebrities, about Paris and what. So it's like these girls can be mean girls even though they're rich and famous, and sometimes there's evidence and receipts of it. Okay. So so this is where we're at with all this. Now, my next theory is I wondered why they haven't had kids yet, Hailey and Justin. And being that if she was about to nail it down, why hasn't she had a baby? And I'm not saying she doesn't have, that they haven't tried or they don't want to try. Ellen has asked, and he's like, that would be up to Hailey. And he came off really great and really respecting Hailey. And I think like it's very popular right now, especially if you're super rich, to be like a young mom. So I just kind of was like, that's interesting. Why haven't they? This is just my theory. I had a theory many years ago when I was at Chelsea Lately, when George Clooney was single. And I said, I believe George Clooney had a secret vasectomy. How has he had all these girlfriends without ever getting them pregnant? He now is married. He, I believe, has twins with his wife. I pretty confident they went through some type of fertility, but I'm not sure. And I know for a fact that there's a lot of guys that get secret vasectomies when they're young. They take their sperm, they put it in a safe place, and they get a vasectomy. Sometimes they have it reversed, or sometimes when they're finally ready to have a kid, they're like, well, let's just do in vitro. Okay. But this way, nobody's going to ruin my life. Or there are guys that don't want to be Nick Cannon. No one's going to, I'm not going to be a father to a woman that I didn't really want to share my life with. If I cheat on my wife, I'm not going to have an unexpected baby. This is great. And sometimes when that happens, when you get a vasectomy, sometimes there is a possibility of a infection or something with the nether regions down there. And there was a time where there was an article back in 2017 with Justin Bieber where he was at the hospital and somebody got a hold of his records, and it was something with an enlarged like ball sack. So all of this is theory. None of this is true. None of this is proven. The show is called Juicy Scoop. I am one person plus Annie. We read a lot of shit and we talk about it, and that's all it is. And now he's canceled his tour. All of this is coming out. This is a horrible PR nightmare for Hailey Bieber. It does not make her the likable one. I don't see a lot of people coming to her defense. I also said that Selena Gomez was going to go on a social media break, but you said she tweeted yesterday, so that lasted a day and a half, or Instagram. That lasted a day and a half, so nobody took my 90-day advice. But anyway, I mean, it's just, I am obsessed, though, that women who are very calculating in getting who they want and kind of being a chameleon to get that guy to fall in love with them. I'm fascinated by it because it was never me. I knew women like that. There's been women in history like that. I believe Hilaria Baldwin is one. I believe Hailey Bieber is one. I believe Meghan Markle is one. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Doesn't mean that this marriage can't be real love. It just means some women really go after it and sort of trick the guy into thinking that it was by chance that I met you. And it was by the stars aligned, or that we were both Christians or whatever. And I just find that part of it fascinating. And that's why I'm choosing to talk about it. Okay. Now, also Jordyn Woods. To remind you of who Jordyn Woods was, she was Kylie Jenner's best friend from 11 years old on. She was part of her short-lived series, the one that China Black said, the one that Black China said, the life of Kylie is why their show, she and Rob's show, were taken off of E! They did Life of Kylie one season with her best friend, Jordyn. I met her. She was very nice. Not a booming personality, I don't think, but she was her best friend. She started to model and get a lot of her own following. And then one night she went to a party and was seen making out, possibly more, but admitted to making out with Tristan, father of now Chloe's 2 kids. They stopped being friends. Kylie replaced her with this girl, Stassi baby, this other girl, Stassi, who got the same ass and everything. And they seemed to have fun, and they seemed like they might even be more than friends. Again, my opinion. Okay. So Jordyn Woods, then she posted something saying, I just love this lip liner by Rare Beauty, who is Selena Gomez's makeup line, so much, meaning she likes it better than Kylie's lip liner, than Kim's lip liner, than everyone else's lip liner, than Lisa Rinna's lip liner. She likes the one the most. And so she's kind of stating, I know what side of history I want to be on, and it's Selena Gomez. So good for you, Jordyn. Now let's talk about the biggest murder, definitely in South Carolina, but the biggest murder that has ever happened lately. This trial is insane, and that's the Murdaugh murder. I did 2 juicy crimes on it. If you're part of Patreon, you can listen back to those. But today is the closing statements. So as recording right now, today, Wednesday, I have heard the first part of the closing argument of the prosecutor, and I'm up on it. And I just want to fill you in, for those of you that are watching every day and every second I don't know that you'll love my commentary. I'm sure you'll say, Heather, why haven't you not watched this trial every day? I think I'm knowledgeable enough to speak on it. And Shannon, my sister, who's an attorney, we also talked about it. The basic juice of this story is there's this guy, Alex Murdough, different ways to pronounce things. He came from a long line of attorneys that not only were, they call them solicitors there, but not only were they prosecutors, but they also had private practices, and they made a lot of money. And there was a lot of nepotism in this town, and they ran the town and everything. I'm trying to get to say it. So one day, June 7th to be exact, June 7th, his son, who was 21, I think at the time, and his wife were found shot dead on their property, where they had this big property where they had these dogs in kennels because they were hunting dogs. He immediately said, oh my God, he found them. He was with them before. Then he said he went to go visit his sick parent. And when he came back, he went out there and was like, oh my God, someone came and shot my son and wife dead. And it must be all these people that were making threats on our family and our lives. What has come out in the trial is that he never made the police aware that anyone was making threats on his life or his family's life or his son's life. The reason people thought, oh my God, this is a revenge kill is because the son, Paul, who was a real fuck up and probably an alcoholic, insisted on driving his friends one night when he was drunk in a boat past midnight and was speeding as they begged him not to, crashed into this bridge, and a couple people went flying out of the boat, one being this girl, Mallory Beach. She wasn't found till days later, and she was deceased. So he was dealing with being that he was drunk behind the wheel, and of course there was going to be a criminal trial and obviously a civil case because she was killed wrongfully. So he's dealing with that. Then, but the biggest part is that he was like a Tom Girardi. He did a lot of cases where they're wrongful, like accidents or someone got hurt on the job or they were, a malpractice, whatever. He would represent the person that was a victim. He would have a big winning, and he would either give them a little or partial or not tell them how much he really won, just like Tom, because maybe it was not even in court. And then he would take it all for himself. And he wouldn't even give it to the rest of his partners. He would hide it from his partners. That all came out in the trial. The incredible financial deception he was doing. He was screwing over the law firm. He was screwing over his clients. He was screwing over the client's family. He was screwing over a housekeeper that died on his property, in which he acted like he was going to help her sons collect money from his own homeowner's insurance policy. Those two were completely deceived, the two boys. He took all that money, and he had an opioid addiction problem, which no one denies that. But in it, he said, oh, it was, so many pills that the prosecutioner's like, we think you're lying about how bad your opiate addiction was because you would be dead if you took this many pills. So they're presenting, he lies about everything. He lies about everything, and he has no emotions about screwing over all these clients and screwing over all these people. The only emotions that he has is he did, show some emotion about his wife and child. However, they have the all the forensics from his phone and everything of what happened once he found them and the police came, and the different things that he looked on his phone. One, checking on a restaurant nearby. One was responding to a group text of a girl in a bikini, calling his brother and all these other people before he calls the one surviving son. Why I think it's significant that he didn't call Buster right away, the only surviving person of their immediate family of 4 at this point, besides himself, was if you really thought that there is some revenge killing going on because you're these prominent people and, you might be a target or your son might be a target because of the horrible tragedy of this girl, Mallory Beach, that died on the boat accident. Wouldn't the first thing be like, oh my God, where is the rest of my family? but most importantly, where is my other son? You'd call the other son first and you'd be like, go right now to the police department. You need security. Somebody is annihilating our family. Then I'm going to call my 2 brothers and make sure they're safe and their families are safe. That's not how he acted. The clothes were not the clothes he was wearing before. His son, his son Paul did a Snapchat on his phone that was recovered that shows that his timeline wasn't what he said and that, in fact, Alex was there. So the timeline doesn't match up with what Alex says. So it comes down to that. But the jury is going to have to say, okay. Oh, and then there was also, evidence that the wife was, possibly wanting to get divorced and not pleased with him. And they knew he had an addiction. And also, so they were killed on June 7th. On June 10th, there was going to be this thing where he was going to have to show and open up all of his financial records. So all of his lies and everything that he was doing, it was all going to come crashing down on June 10th. And then on June 7th, this horrible tragedy happens where his wife and his son are killed. So now people have sympathy for Alex. They have sympathy. That's going to put everything off for a few months as far as him showing his financial records because of all the law deception, as well as the Mallory Beach case. He's a victim too. So they believe, the prosecution, that was the motivation. And also his son, Paul, was going to not have a great life. He was probably definitely going to have to do time, even with all the favors that his wealthy family could pull. And so he might have thought, you know what? It is really hard to think that a man could do this. And that is what the jury is going to have to really think about. Besides the evidence conflicting, the defense says that the killer was between 5'2" and 5'4", and it was done with 2 guns. Therefore, it must have been 2 people. And that would go with Alex's story saying, it wasn't me, it was 2 people. I don't know who they are, but they hated our family. The prosecution is saying, no, we believe that the gunfire could have been done by one person using 2 guns to make it appear like 2 people, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be a short person. That's all that forensic stuff where 2 experts then conflict. So that's a lot for the jury to go and think about. And the other part is just, yes, in the history of time, people have killed their spouse over money, no longer in love, affair, divorce, them finding out somebody. So it's like, had he just killed his wife, I think it would be an easier conviction. I think people are still going to have a really hard time. Why did he have to kill his son too? So that is where, and then the crazy thing happened where, a couple weeks later, he calls and he's like, I was on the side of the road and someone drove by and shot me, but I'm living. When that happened, people thought, oh my God, someone really is after their family. They just tried to kill him. But then other people thought, wait a minute, did he try to have someone kill him so that he would die and whatever money was left would go to his remaining son, Buster? But now the prosecution, and I believe that no, he knew the person who shot him. He was like Cousin Eddie or some drug dealer or something and paid him to do it. And I think he had him shoot him to live and to gain, again, sympathy. And also the story of that there is someone out there or some people out there trying to annihilate my whole family, and you should feel sorry for me. After that, he went to rehab. Everybody, loses weight when they're either getting divorced or on murder for killing their family. So he's slimmed down a lot. And there are some crazy kind of funny moments. One being that I saw, which was a TikTok, because we got to make light of it, where his brother's on the stand testifying to his horrible drug addiction. And he says, he had diarrhea. And I don't mean diarrhea on the toilet. I mean in the pants, in the car, like can't get out. And the camera pans, because this is all being filmed. And Alec Murdough is sitting there like, and then there's a guy behind him, like shaking his head, like, I've been there. I've been in the car with diarrhea in my pants. And it's just like, and this TikTok that went out was like this, the writing on it was like, when you're up for murdering your family, but then the world still knows that you had like horrific diarrhea and not on a toilet in a car in it. Like, I mean, there's so much to it. There's so many elements of the housekeeper. Her testimony doesn't match his testimony. The caregiver. So he said he was visiting his mother who has Alzheimer's, and the caregiver said he did come during the night of the killings. She said he was only there for 20 minutes. She also said he told her, remember, I was here for 30 to 40 minutes. She's like, you were only here for 20. He also, there was also this discrepancy about this blue tarp that had gun residue in it. And at one time, the caregiver said she saw it. And another time she said, well, I don't know if I saw it. Then this other kind of weird thing happens where a GoFundMe starts for the caregiver because she's been so traumatized having to give testimony. And then one of the attorneys who was going after him representing Mallory Beach's family actually gave the caregiver $1,000 just now during the trial. So they thought that was going to screw up everything. And the defense thought that looked really shady. I really don't. I don't think that's going to make a difference. I think he probably just was being nice and felt like, oh, okay, I'll help this woman. She didn't have a huge, great job before, and now she's taken off all this time and she's been traumatized and has to speak in this trial. So I'm just going to contribute like I do for everybody's GoFundMe. But there's so many elements. I hope I did a good job. I mean, there is the 3-part Netflix doc, which I definitely think is excellent. I think there was one before that, but this one is out now. And this one interviews all the kids that knew Paul. He's the son who died, who was killed. Explained his relationship with the housekeeper who mysteriously died on their property. This other kid, Sam Smith, who was gay, who had a mysterious death that they were somehow involved in. That all gets explained. That's not part of prosecuting him. So, but it all adds to the craziness of the story, and that is on Netflix, and it's 3 parts. And Paul's girlfriend is a huge part of that. It is just fascinating. So, we'll probably not know until next week, I think, but maybe they'll finish their final closing statements by the end of the week, and then the jury will have to go and think about it. But I think that he took the stand, Alex, to try to save himself because he figures I'm going to do 20 years for all the crimes of stealing from all my clients. So at least if I get off from the murder, I'd eventually get out and have some life. So I've got nothing to lose. So I am going to take the stand, even though many people advise their clients who are up for murder not to take the stand. I think he did want to take the stand because he was like, hopefully they'll say, you know what, there is enough doubt. The timeline, and there is enough experts and stuff that I'm not 100% convinced that he actually killed his wife and son with 2 different guns. And so we're going to say not guilty on that. I think he's going to get guilty. That's my prediction. But this story is just absolutely amazing and horrible and tragic. And if it was a movie, you wouldn't believe it. Okay. Speaking of juicy crimes and juicy things that I had on my show, I had Joumana Kidd on my show. She was the subject of an episode of American Greed in which she told the story on my show about how she hired this assistant. This woman was a mom. She was a businesswoman. She was classy. She was connected in LA to help her do things. And after working with her for a couple years, or for the first year, she discovered, or around then, that she had stolen some money from her. She forgave her and then found out it was over $1 million in the end. She went for it. She met with prosecutors. She had her financial person help her drive this case. The woman has gotten, fortunately, 51 months. She also owns this restaurant in Phoenix called Breakfast Bitch. And people love the place to get breakfast. I was just there. I did not go there. And, so in her plea to get less time, she said, please, I have all these employees. I have this restaurant. This was my redemption. I admit that I did this awful stuff to this woman, but even though she was like a career con woman, she'd been in and out of jail. The story is amazing. She did get 51 months, but they said she could do it in Phoenix. So she can do it in Phoenix. She has 51 months. Hopefully she'll do the majority of that. So there's a little conclusion there. Kate Middleton and William are on like a weird kind of, in my opinion, unusual, not typical, not very much like them, like doing a lot of press. They like went to a spin class and they're like wearing their suit and like her outfit, and she tapped his ass and at the BAFTAs, and people thought that was sexy. They've been like cheeky, they've been fun. I think it's a great move. I think they need to come out and, again, ignore all of the book, what the book says, the spare. But now they're actually like reminding people like, we are the prince and princess. We are here. We have the 3 cute kids. We are staying in England. We have a hot marriage and we're fun and we're enough. Okay. We're enough and we are down with each other and we're horny and we're fun. So that's happening. Meanwhile, Meghan Markle, according to Page 6 and sources, Meghan Markle was disappointed that Harry had very little money when they met. According to this, Meghan thought that Harry was worth millions or even billions. But then she realized that they would not be able to afford their current lifestyle if they were still working members of the royal family, according to Tom Bauer, who's the author who wrote the book about them in 2022. In 2021, Forbes estimated that Harry's net worth was $10 million, including his inheritance from Diana. That's really not that much. That really is not good enough for Meghan. So by being cut off, then they were cut off from the $34 billion estate when they left the royal family. When they started the Archewell and they got paid between $100 million and $150 million for the Netflix and the podcast, he also got a $20 million advance for his book. Financially, they are killing it right now. They are doing great. But they're not so rich that he is not doing, this is crazy, he is doing a like streamer. He is going to sit down with trauma experts for a mental health thing where he's going to talk to them, and you can watch it for, I think, $33. $33.99 you can stream this, which I'm sure he's getting a huge portion of that. And I mean, that did kind of shock me. Like, is it ever going to be enough? But I don't know if maybe some of that money is going to charity. I don't know. So I don't know. Oh, so you get the book for the $33.99 and you get to watch the streamer. So it's another way to sell the book, but still it's a money grab. But I don't know. I'm just saying they're smart about how they're making their money. They really are. So he also told Stephen Colbert that if he was to come back, he just would like to be an elephant. So from being a prince to an elephant, I mean, I'm sure he could write a book about being an elephant and how hard his life was. Again, he said, if my mom was alive, I don't believe that my brother and I would be having these kind of conflicts. So moving on to the next royal family, and I'm talking about the royal family of America, not the Kardashians, the Gorgas, because I'm going to use Teresa's maiden name. Teresa Gorga versus Joe Gorga. Real Housewives of New Jersey. The season is out. I watched the episode last night. There's a lot to discuss on this. Okay. I spent the weekend in the rain watching the first 3 seasons, or at least the first episode of the 3rd season of New Jersey. I just was like so curious. And boy, was there a lot of cherry wood cabinetry, a lot of faux Italian walls. I mean, that everyone had cherry wood cabinets in a kitchen. And a lot of black and white granite. Anyway, it's really amazing how the show started. It's really amazing how really wacky and strange Danielle Staub came off as. And so the first 2 seasons does not involve Melissa. And, yeah, Teresa's pretty likable. Caroline Manzo loves her. Like, they're all so close. And then at the reunion of the second show, Danielle says to her, "You didn't acknowledge your nephew," to Teresa. And that's the famous scene where Teresa's like, "What?" She goes, "You didn't go to the hospital when your nephew was born." And she goes, and it is amazing. And then Teresa's mind just snaps. And that's when she's like, "You will not break up my family." And that's when she pushes Andy down and she's screaming and she's like, "Ugh!" And she's so furious. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, did she now know? Like, I still am confused. I DM'd Teresa and I'm like, what? I'm watching this. What made you so angry? Like, and she said, "I did visit my nephew in the hospital. I absolutely did. And I didn't know that Melissa was talking to Danielle at that time. But I knew my family was having problems, and for her to bring up anything with my family just, like, infuriated me because I didn't want that out there," basically is what she was saying. So, then I was thinking, I go, "But so what if even if you didn't visit your sister-in-law when she had her 3rd child, while you have 4 children, you didn't make it over in the 48 hours that the kid was at the hospital before he came home. Why would have that been such a big deal?" And she's like, "But I did go." I go, "Okay, it's fine that you went." And this is where I'm like, this is about East Coast Italians. So I put it out there. I did like a story or something. And I got so many people. I go, "Talk to me, East Coast Italians," because there was a time when we had family members that were married to East Coast Italians. And let me tell you something. I was a young girl and I was in college and it was for my nieces and nephews. Their dad's Italian. And I had to give the nicest gifts. I had no money. I had to make sure that they were beautifully wrapped. They had to be labels. Otherwise, in a joking way, I'd get shit talked about me. Okay. And it was so different than my family because now my kids and I, we don't even exchange gifts. They don't even want anything. But I was like, I needed to get the Tickle Me Elmo when I was like 21, like 24 years old. I got a Tickle Me Elmo for them, which was so hard to get. Designer clothes. It could never be like a Target outfit, nothing like that. And it was just it was just very much about the gifts. And it was very much about, who visited, how often did you come to the hospital? And their dad was in the hospital and it was bad. It was a bad situation. But we noticed, like my dad would notice, "Oh, did you notice that like the relatives are all kind of keeping tabs on how often we've gone, how often they're going, and I just think that's kind of a cultural thing that doesn't exist in other families. Like, and so, and then people were saying also the oldest girl in the Italian family is sort of the keeper of the brother, and they're very close. And then she is the one that always plans the events, is in charge of the events. And people wrote me and said, "Oh my God, I married an Italian and his sister is nice to me, but she still treats me like I just met her brother when we've been married 10 years. And so I do think there's this dynamic that makes the show so interesting. And just like the royals have their dynamic, I think some Italian families have this dynamic of like, you hurt me, and they are so close, and there is such a love between Teresa and Joe because they were so close, and there's only 2 of them, that these like snubs and these disses and these jabs, they just cannot get over it. And then put on top of it that I think I've said this before, I think Teresa absolutely wanted the show to be her thing. I think she wanted to do the show. She was doing the show. She was successful at the show. She liked having the show be her thing alone and then having parties and inviting them. I saw Melissa at 2 of her parties, her daughter's christening and her housewarming. Melissa was there. It wasn't like she wasn't inviting Melissa and Joe to her events because that's what I originally thought. I thought she was purposely keeping Joe and Melissa away from cameras and producers for the first 2 years. And that's when they were like, F you, now we're going to be on the show. Surprise. That's what I thought. That wasn't the case. She was inviting them. But there's, reports that she possibly told other cast members, hey, don't talk to Melissa at my parties because I don't want cameras to get on her. That's never been proven, but that's what other people that are like pro Melissa think. I think Melissa has every right to be on the show, and Joe, I can see why they wanted to do it. They, Melissa, even Caroline said, Melissa and Teresa are the same person. They don't necessarily like each other that much, but it's because they're the same person. They're very much alike. And Melissa says, one time I used this photographer to take photos of the kids. And Teresa was like, why did you steal my photographer? And she's like, I don't know. I liked your photographer. Why couldn't I use the photographer? And she's like, well, I don't want everybody, having the same kind of look of my photos as me. I don't blame them. It reminds me, I did a photo shoot with somebody that made me feel like I was the most special person on earth. And oh my God, we're going to do all these different looks with you. And then I saw that like a few months later, he did the exact same outfit, the same pose, the same look with someone kind of similar to me. It's like, it's not a big deal, but you're like, oh, okay. I don't love that. I thought this was a more unique thing. So like Teresa kind of was like thinking Hollywood back even when she was just a housewife before the show. So it's still confusing why they can't get along and why Joe says he's so hurt, but stuff that she has brought up. She just did she just was on Access Hollywood, and she said, Joe only came to visit me once the whole year I was at the prison, one time. And that's when the cameras were there. And we also remember that Melissa was not on the list. And she said, no, I didn't put Melissa on the list to visit me because we weren't getting along and I didn't want her to visit me. But Joe was. Now, why did Joe only go once? I'm assuming it's a pain in the ass to go visit someone in prison, just like it might be to go visit someone in the hospital, but you do it. And, each month probably went by and he just didn't do it. And because his wife couldn't go, maybe that pissed him off too, because he is very much like, you don't include my wife in the wedding, you don't get me. A lot of people think that this has been their whole storyline, keeping this fight going. I don't think so. I think the Gorgas are definitely interesting enough. Just watching them drink and be funny and just watching them. I don't need them to have a storyline, and I don't need their storyline to be that we fight with Teresa. But I mean, it is just a fascinating thing. And I'm not necessarily on anyone's side. I think it stems down from their dynamic. I think it's cultural Italian. I think it's older Italian sister, younger brother. I think it's sister-in-law. It's really unfortunate. But I also the analyzing of like, you didn't invite this person to your wedding. And it's like, she's 50 years old. If she doesn't want these people at her wedding, you should have just let it go. But he's holding on to that. So then last night she has a party, a housewarming, and she calls him. Hi, Joe. Are you coming to my housewarming? And he goes, I don't know. Louis like, your sister loves you. Why don't you talk to her? Why don't you see her? He goes, it hurt too much to see her. I'm like, then you really don't want to make up. You really you don't. And so I think in Teresa's opinion, she's like, you really don't want to hang out with me. And therefore, I'm the one that's really hurt because I do want to hang out with you. I just think this could go on forever. And it's so many layers. And it really is sad because I think they may look back just like when Kyle and Kathy cried and they said, we lost so many Christmases and holidays. We don't want to do that anymore because I think they can have fun when they're like hanging out, but it's so tit for tat and there's so much competition and there's so much jealousy. And then of course you get all these people that are either team Melissa, team Teresa and giving their opinions and all of this. And then Teresa says, everyone who's here. So then Joe doesn't come. He goes, I'm not coming. But then Melissa comes. And so she's all upset that Joe's not there. And then Teresa says, all of you are here because you're our chosen family. And they're like, that's a diss to Joe and Melissa. And it's like, if Joe was there, and I don't think that's a diss. I think people say that. I think people say, You're my chosen family. If you're here, you're family. How is that a diss to your real family? But then someone say, yeah, it is because you didn't invite Melissa's sister. The sisters absolutely did mean tweets at the famous christening party where he's like, walk away. The first time he was on camera filming for the christening party. She goes, well, then why did you invite me? And Melissa's sisters goes, I think it was a technicality. Like, just like mean. So even if they've made up and even if they've had some fun times over the years, she's like, meh, I don't really think I need I don't think I need all of Melissa's family enjoying my, $1,000 a head party. I just don't think I do. Like, should have thought about that in the last 13 years of you being dicks to me. So, but I think him not going, why wouldn't you go? Why wouldn't you just go for an hour? If you actually want to make up, why wouldn't you go? Is it because this adds to the drama, or is it because you really are like, fuck it? Like, I don't need to make her feel like we're good. I want her to know we're not good. So, that's a lot. Meanwhile, Jennifer Aydin's husband, who's a plastic surgeon, is like, feels very much over her. It was revealed last season that he had an affair many years back before the show started. It reminds me a lot of Real Housewives of Miami, the dynamic between Lenny and Lisa. He was a plastic surgeon. She revealed he had an indiscretion, and now they're divorced. I'm not wishing this. I'm saying it's classic. It doesn't look good. He seems annoyed. He seems not into her. She's like, don't you find that I'm this or that? And he's like, not really. And so I think they're going to be in a little bit of trouble. Also, Jackie, it's kind of sad. They have demoted Jackie, and it's like she's barely being featured. Jackie did an interview where, she has had an eating disorder. That was her storyline. She had an eating disorder for 20 years. And she's written a book about having an eating disorder, and that's coming out. I'm going to say something, and I've said it before. I don't think that is something, talk about storylines. If it's your story, if it's your life, I hate that people say storylines. If it's your life, it's your life. As far as something that people want to sink their teeth in and read or talk about, it's not an eating disorder. The Bravo audience member that's a working mom that has a bunch of little kids and finally puts them to bed and then crawls into bed at 9:30 to watch her Housewives. You know what? She doesn't want to hear about your eating disorder, and she doesn't want to know about your your parents who are aging and their ailments. Even if that's your life, Bravo, I wouldn't feature it. I wouldn't. The only thing that they want to see that's sad, besides if just your wealth and having fun, if you've got a sad story, it's got to be that your husband's a dick and that he's cheating. Okay? That's all they want to see, because then that makes them go, wow, this girl's rich, she's thin, she's happy, she appears to be happy, but her husband's cheating on her. This is what I want to see at night after I'm exhausted. I'm sorry, we're awful people. That's it. We don't want to see about, the fact that you struggled. So anyway, Jackie is furious that people are on Ozempic. Furious. She's like, I go to dinners and nobody's ordering. Arr, arr. And I'm like, listen, I'm sorry that something like this didn't exist when you struggled. I'm sorry, but I don't think it's we're supposed to feel bad now that you're angry about it. You're angry that you're no longer on the show. They barely feature her. It's and she's just trying to catch eye contact with somebody so the camera's on her. And it's just too bad, because I think she's a nice person. I just think the wave is run. Her husband's hot. I think they like having the husband because it's half the show is the husband's. But I don't know. I don't think people are going to be into buying Jackie's book, just like they weren't into buying The Bad Mormon. Okay, let me talk about Real Housewives of Potomac. This is really juicy. We just finished the second part 2 reunion. And this, as I said before, is the most sexual show ever. And this does have some juicy stuff you can sink your teeth into. Okay, let's just start with the latest, which is Juan Dixon and Robin Dixon. They were divorced, then they were dating, then they got engaged, and now they announced they were married. It came out recently that he met a girl on DMs during COVID in which they met in person. The girl has spoken. They said they did get intimate. He said, I just went to a hotel room and paid for a hotel room for this stranger because it's COVID and I'm a good person. She believes him. She went off to marry him. Then, just a couple days ago, someone submitted a photo of Juan Dixon, who's a coach of a college basketball team, at a laundromat with a female coach of that team at the school too. And they said, oh my God, they were hugging and touching and everything. Someone's like, no, there's no evidence of them hugging or touching. Maybe they just are doing their team's laundry together. The girl has since done like a fun photo on her own social media holding like laundry detergent with Juan and like, get a life. And other people are like, okay, maybe they're not like screwing, but I still don't think this is a great look for Robin's husband, and for Robin to be like, haha, isn't that funny? No, they weren't doing anything wrong. It's pretty bad. Robin also comes off hypocritical in the reunion because she says, no married man should be alone with a woman. Of course, her husband was when he was in the lobby paying for that hotel room. And everything should be on camera, in which she didn't share the whole infidelity story on camera. She shared it on her Patreon afterwards, in which Andy really scolded her. So then there's this girl, Candace. And Candace has a husband who's a chef. And his whole storyline, I mean, Giselle said that, he made her feel uncomfortable once. She's like, screw you. You have no storyline. And she's pretty harsh. She's like, you and your dwindling uterus should have been your storyline. But instead, you chose to try to take my husband down because Giselle had to get a hysterectomy. And she's like, that should have been your storyline. And you didn't want, she probably was like, I listened to Juicy Scoop and it's not that juicy of a story. What's juicier is that your husband might be a creep, which is true, but not fair because he did nothing wrong. Then there's Ashley Darby, who really was a real dumb. She marries this old, ugly Australian, has 2 kids with him, never signed a prenup, doesn't have any money, didn't utilize the platform to try to get a job or a career going besides being a real housewife. All she does is TikToks, which I don't think pay her anything. And she says she does not do well at all. And the guy, Michael Darby, is like worth millions and millions, like, I don't know, it was like $60 million or something crazy. And she is living in a house that their LLC owns. So he can come in anytime and it's not even her own home. And so she was probably, when she met him, being that he was married before and she was this young thing, she probably was like, I don't need to sign a prenup. I trust you. I don't want you to think I'm a gold digger. It's fine. And then they were supposed to do a post-nup or something because he got caught cheating. But hey, listen, don't try, if you're going to marry a really rich guy who's older, who was a cheater, or maybe you were the mistress, don't say, I don't want a prenup to appear like I'm here for the right reasons. Get the prenup and have those things in that if I stay this long, I get this much. If there's indiscretion, I get an extra bonus amount of money. If I have a baby, I get this much, a next baby. And if he doesn't want to marry you because you asked for that, then just think of Ashley Darby and say, you know what? Then and you don't trust me. I don't trust you. Let's not get married because it's not going to work out. Then this girl Mia, talks about that she's bisexual. She lets her husband mess around with her girlfriends, providing there's no penetration. She likes to look at other girls' vaginas because she was interested in one day being a gynecologist. She also says she's a CEO of like the joint chiropractic that her husband owns, but now they've been kicked out of the business by his brothers, so she has no job. And she had a best friend that they bought a Porsche for that everyone thought that they were like swinging or lesbians together. And she then goes on to say that this girl, Dr. Wendy, who's very educated, that she was cheating with Cynthia Bailey's ex-husband, Peter. And then she goes, and they're like, "What have you ever gotten with Peter since you know him, Mia?" And she goes, "No, but I slept with his girlfriend once." So much sex in this thing. Then they go to a strip joint. Okay, they did that in the season. A girl strip joint where girls are stripping. Who knows how much like sexual trauma these girls had growing up. They're flapping their faces while they're sucking on lobster and steak. And then the Dr. Wendy and Mia make up and are getting drunk off tequila. And they like almost make out and look at each other's coochies. They're like, "Oh, everyone showed each other their vaginas and we all looked at each other's vaginas." I just had a girls' weekend. We never did that. I've been living in a sorority house. I went to an all-girl high school. We never looked at each other's vaginas. We never made out of boredom. Anyway, so this is a very sexual show. Oh, and Karen, the queen Grand Dame, she's got some boyfriend who's got blue eyes that she's had forever, who she's denying, and they're calling out. So this is so much swinging, lesbianism, infidelity, cheating, inappropriate advances that are unfounded, homosexuality of Michael Darby's part from previous seasons where he grabbed a cameraman's ass. So much, and we still have one episode left. Paris Hilton had her son named Phoenix. They took a beautiful photo with Kathy. As you know, Phoenix is the same name of Dorit's daughter. She's got 2 kids, Dorit, Jagger and Phoenix, mind you. And it was funny because Paris writes, "Love our little angel's first photo so much. Thank you for the collective you, whatever, captured it." And Dorit wrote, "She's perfection." I don't know if she's being snarky because it's a boy, but or because her daughter's name's Phoenix. And she's like, "Let's just remind everybody I had the name first." Whatever, they're filming. They celebrated Crystal's 40th birthday, in which I was not invited. It was this weekend. I would have really liked to have gone. They went to the rain, through the rain, and they had fun, and they all were like kissing each other, not in a sexual way, but having fun and everything. But then Kyle wrote like, "When we were all so happy." So it's like, oh my God, what happened after the party? Like, just so you know, even though we look like we're all getting along at the party, girls, get ready for a fun season because we're still going to hate each other and there's going to still be some snark happening. Oh, when I talked about Peter Thomas, who I just was talking about, that's Cynthia Bailey's ex-husband who has these clubs called Bar One. He had a crazy thing happen. He had someone who at his bar say that he pushed her down, then came back and was even more drunk, and then grabbed her by the neck. So she filed assault charges. It went to a full trial today, and he was exonerated. Just weird. I thought there was no evidence, and so good for him. I hope it didn't happen. This other guy on TikTok, I mean, the people that are now talking about Housewives, this guy is named Winston Land. No, wait, Winston to Land. He told some juicy scoop. He said, remember how Giselle from Real Housewives of Potomac is married to this pastor who has like 8 different baby mamas or something. He's this big pastor that someone referred to as Pastor Holy Whore. I think that might have been the Grand Dam. He believes, the rumor is, that when Phaedra from Atlanta was with her husband, God, I forgot her husband's name, but he went to prison. And when she was with him, she was talking to somebody, and her husband said she's having an affair. And it was Giselle's ex-husband, Pastor Holy Whore, Pastor whatever his name is, was Apollo. Apollo apparently believed that she was seeing Giselle's former husband, the pastor, at one time, and that's why Giselle and Phaedra don't like each other. I don't know if that's true, but I don't know. And I don't know if those 2 girls are going on an ultimate girls trip together, but book the 2 of them on the next one, please. Sex and the City, the cab light theory, has been revisited by Bustle magazine. This was, if you can remember from Sex and the City, it was around the time when Miranda was buying her own apartment, which 25 years ago, or whenever it was 20 years ago, was a big deal, even in New York, that a single woman would buy a home without a husband or a fiance or whatever. So then she goes, so they're always talking about like, how does it work out? And she said, listen, men are like cabs and they get married when the right one comes along and the lights on. Wait, how does it work? Yeah. So the right one, yeah, the cab, it's like you're waiting for a cab, right? So the guys, okay, that's it. Okay. So you're the girl waiting for the cab. And when the cab's lights comes on, that's when that man is like, you know what? At this time in my life, I am ready to get married. I'm ready to get married, and I hope the next girl I meet is the one. I'm not screwing around anymore. I'm not just trying to like bone as many chicks as possible. I'm looking for the one. And if you're the one, then that's it. It might not be necessarily the love of his life. It's like he likes you enough, but the time is right. I totally think that theory makes a lot of sense. And I think women, this is a comforting theory to women because how many times have you heard about a girl that's like, oh my God, I was with my boyfriend for 3 years and we talked about marriage. We never did. We finally broke up amicably. And then 5 months later, he's married, he's engaged to someone else and he's only dated for 4 months. How the hell does that happen? How did he know? And then someone would say, well, now he's ready to get married. And, I kind of think it's a little of both. I do think guys might make the decision still, even though things are so much more balanced as far as like women. It's not weird that a woman would buy a place by herself. It's respected. Women, there are more single female homeowners than there are single male homeowners. But I think that I do think there comes a time in men and women's lives when I remember I woke up one day at 27 and I was like, from now on, I'm only dating guys that have potential for marriage. And I said it too. And I was engaged within like whatever, less than 2 years after that, after I kind of just like made that decision. Like because I would go on dates for food, like a hungry or like for material or for whatever. Like, oh, I just want to see like, I'm not interested in this guy, but this will make for a good story. Like I always had to come up with content for my stand-up. And I think even now that everyone has a podcast, probably a lot of girls are going on dates just to like have something to talk about on Tuesday when they record their show. But I do think people will say like, okay, now is the time. So, but men chimed in this article and were like, that's not true. Like, it's the woman who I really love. Or you're like a Hailey Bieber or a Hilaria Baldwin or a Meghan Markle, and you decide who you want, and you make the guy think that the perfect woman walked in. I don't know. I think it can work all different ways, but I think it's a interesting concept. But I do think guys kind of decide once their career's in a certain place and they have a certain amount of money that they're more open to hopefully finding the woman of their dreams. And the woman, their most compatible woman, might have been their girlfriend in the dorms freshman year, but you weren't, you had to sow your wild oats and all that stuff. And that just might be the case. And that's why sometimes if you don't think that that you are the woman of your husband's dreams and maybe his old girlfriend was, maybe say, you know what, I don't think you should go to that high school reunion. And I think we should share a Facebook page. Maybe you have to be that woman because that's when people find the love of their life, their past girlfriend. Very scary. Real Housewives of Miami is real good. And Larsa Pippin was on Tamron Hall, and Tamron Hall was really really asking her the hard questions about why she is dating Michael Jordan's son. Michael Jordan and her husband were like adversaries on the court. They weren't close. They have some big, long, juicy scoop history with basketball. And she was just adamant, just saying, you know what? We were friends first and we just really get along and we're like best friends. And his parents are happy for us and my family's happy. And there's really no big deal about it. It's just like she's like, yeah, but you're 16 years apart. She's like, yeah. And my husband was 10 years older than him. I think she came off great. I think she's a really big asset to the show. And I'm glad that after Kim Kardashian dumped her as a friend, I'm glad that she's like living her own life and it all works out perfectly. And Let her date Michael Jordan's son. Who cares? Like, if he wants to date her, she's not gonna have any more kids, let her have some fun. Okay, Lisa's husband is dating the Katharina, who I talked about with Spencer, and he is Lenny, the plastic surgeon, and they have this awful divorce. Meanwhile, Lisa has a boyfriend too, but they went to some event or wedding at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, and someone spotted that she wore the exact same dress, so good for her for recycling a look, and purse to the wedding with Lenny as she did with her ex-husband at some other event. With like the same leg out, except she's like a little tanner, or maybe the lighting is different, and a different shoe. But the dress is exactly the same, and the Dolce & Gabbana bag. And also she's doing ads where she is like a stockbroker, like some app of like doing stockbroker. So good for her, but kind of weird, kind of interesting. Also Jen Shah, our everyone's favorite attorney, Ron Richards, shared that in trying to get the retribution of all the crimes that Jen Shah has done, they are trying to get the money from her Cameo account. So if you got a Cameo from Jen Shah before she went to prison, feel good about yourself, because that $50 or whatever is going to go to the $9 million that she owes. They're trying to get that money, but so I think it's going to be very hard if you're going after the Cameo money to ever get these millions together. I'm going to end on this crazy story. This is very sad. There is this beautiful influencer named Abby Choi. She's really pretty. She's a mother of 4. So she was married. She's in Hong Kong. She was married to this one guy. They had 2 kids. They got divorced. And then she married like one of the richest men in Hong Kong and had 2 more. And she went missing. And they now have arrested her first husband, his brother, his father, and his mother. She's not being held in custody, but she was charged with obstruction of justice. And in tracking surveillance cameras around the city, the brother she was very close to, her ex-brother-in-law, and he often was her driver, I guess because she was so rich, he still wanted to like employ him. The last was seeing them together. Then there was some loft that was also leased by the family. They searched it all, and they found her body dismembered. There was legs in certain places and arms in certain places, and they're still trying to find her torso. The head was in a soup pot, all in this place. Oh, the skull had a hole in it, so I think they shot her and then dismembered her so that the body wouldn't be found. But they, I guess, found it all in these different places and the garbage nearby. And police did like a really good job, and they've arrested them all. And they believe that the motivation was money, whether she owed them money or there was money from the divorce or something, a few $1 million. The first family, though, the dad, her father-in-law, was a former cop. So the fact that he did this too, they're like, he probably knew how to possibly get away with it. So the motivation is still a little sketchy, but I definitely think they have the right people. And her husband's devastated, but she was like on covers of magazines and everyone loved her and she was beautiful. So she's left 4 kids. And, but it's definitely was the motivation was money within the divorce, because I don't think it was really a crime of passion anymore, being that she was already married for years and had 2 more kids. So I think that's what we're going to figure out. But wow, just a horrible, horrible story. Oh, and Meri is dispelling the rumors that she might be gay, which I don't know where those rumors started, but I'm thinking it might have been me. She said, a lot of people are speculating on my sexuality, and I'm coming out as straight. The reason people are speculating, including myself, is that she just speaks about this one woman who's her best friend as like a life partner, a soulmate, the greatest person. She gushes when we see the 2 of them together on camera when they're doing like a Zoom or like filming themselves for the show. the way she talks about her, writes about her. It was just a lot. And also, I think she just sort of has kind of some, masculine energy. And she's another one of those people that I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame. But hey, it's never too late. And whatever life brings you. Oh, someone just sent me, there is a new reality show. Are you a late in life lesbian? So they're going to do a show about late in life lesbians. So I'm just saying, Meri, Sisterwives isn't going to last forever. Oh, speaking of Sisterwives also, Christine, as you know, is in love with this guy. His daughter has spoken out because people have done the research on this guy and found his family. And this girl has a TikTok. And unfortunately, his wife unalived herself, I will say, when once I think when many years ago, but I think when the girl was like a teenager. And so that came out and they showed her and she did a cute TikTok where she was like, let me show you some other great things about my mom. But anyway, she said, I'm so happy my dad's in love and I'm happy for Christine. And, I want to share my mom's story so that other people and other moms that are struggling with mental illness get the help they need because this was so tragic. But today I'm very happy that they're in love and like, please, in talking about my dad and our family and everything, respect, because obviously he's going to be featured on the show. Here's another juicy story. Brittany Matthews, who is this girl who's married to a guy who plays football for the Chiefs. And Joe Rogan, and I did not listen to the episode. This is coming from the New York Post article. Joe Rogan was talking about how, she's an influencer and his brother is a TikToker and they're in the stands and they're filming themselves and she's always declaring her love and, she's out there. She's an influencer. So she's a public person who, is probably gaining a lot of people because she is married to a guy who was in the Super Bowl and whatnot. And Joe Rogan said, just know that a woman that brings that kind of energy and publicity to your marriage as a couple of like, look how supportive I am, look how great I am. She's going to do that same thing if you ever get divorced. But it'll be in reverse. So she'll be sharing it all. And she took offense to that. And she tweeted, her name's Brittany Mahomes. Is that how you say it? Actually, grown-ass men hating on women in general is pathetic. So, which, of course, she's not going to want anyone saying anything rude about her or that she's, a thirsty TikToker or whatever, or that, God forbid, they ever get divorced. But as a concept in 2023, I actually think it's a pretty profound statement. And I don't think it's necessarily hating on women. Women brag about their love on social media. They're on social media more than men. Are there a handful of guys that write a long thing about their wife every birthday, every Christmas? I follow a few. I'm a little jealous. It'll be like some long thing. It'll be like, how did I get so lucky? Mother of my 3 kids, gorgeous. I love you more than every other day. But it's rare. There's a lot of women that do that all the time, whether you roll your eyes when you read it or it's true or it's really become their career. Their relationship is their career. There's a handful of married gay men that I follow that have made their career about their love for each other and how cute and compatible they are. That's it. They don't bring any other content to the table. It's just their love. So, yeah, I do think that if your whole persona and identity is really wrapped up in your spouse and your relationship and how cute you are and how dedicated you are. Yeah, if the divorce comes, I doubt that you would be silent because you weren't silent about anything else in your life. You weren't private about anything else in your life. So what he's saying isn't necessarily, I don't think, ripping on her, but just ripping on a person that if you're sharing everything about your life now, you're going to share. I mean, back in the day when there weren't social media, there'd be people that would like spill it all about their divorce, at the school or whatever. And you're like, oh my God, I know everything about her divorce. And other people would be like, I had no idea they had any problems. I was shocked. I was blown away. So it's the same thing. So when the time comes, but I think she probably loved this. I never even talked about her before. So she probably loves that Joe Rogan and I both talked about her. So you're welcome. Congrats. All right, as you guys know, there's extra juicy scoop every Friday, and you can get that at heathermcdonald.net. You click on Patreon, you join, and you get all the back episodes. I think we're going on 4 or 5 years now. No commercials, all the juiciest scoop. There's different tiers like the juicy crimes and Get Me Behind Gates, all there at heathermcdonald.net. Check it out, change your life, and have a wonderful rest of your day.